The young master of the arranged marriage kept a canary and doted on her so much that she became arrogant and willful. Just as I was about to cancel the engagement, I suddenly saw the bullet comments. What's wrong with the male lead? He just wants to get your attention. Don't cancel the engagement. Female lead. As long as you shed a few tears, he'll immediately offer you everything he has. I turned my head and looked out the window. The canary was wearing high-end customized jewelry and, with a beaming smile, she held Robert's arm. The latter lazily lowered his eyes, and there was a casual kind of doting in his expression. I smiled and replied to the lawyer's message. Continue drafting the engagement cancellation agreement. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. As soon as I finished speaking, the bullet comments exploded. Why is the female lead so heartless? The poor male lead is going to get drunk in the bar. Sigh. The male lead is just being arrogant and stubborn, and as a result, he lost his wife. It doesn't matter. The male lead can just bankrupt the female lead's family, and then the female lead will have to go and beg him obediently. Then the female lead will be jealous of other women every day, and the male lead will be extremely happy. I stared at the bullet comments and couldn't help laughing coldly in anger. I glanced sideways again and happened to meet Robert's gaze. He slightly raised his eyebrows and let the girl continue to hold his arm, showing no sign of guilt at being discovered. It seemed that he noticed my unpleasant expression, and the corners of his lips curved upward. The canary that Robert kept was a small internet celebrity. When the two of them were together, they made a handsome couple. Many people gathered around to take photos of them. The glass of the cafe where I was sitting was transparent, and I didn't know if I had been captured in the photos. I cursed silently in my heart. I picked up my bag and then called the driver. I decided to change the place and wait for the driver to pick me up. Unexpectedly, as soon as I stepped out the door, I bumped into Robert face to face. Me? Were you walking in this direction just now? I asked. Are you paying so much attention to me? Robert smiled lazily with his eyes curved. The girl beside him looked at me warily, but didn't say anything because of my status. Remembering the words in the bullet comments just now, I felt a wave of annoyance in my heart. I tried to bypass them, but my wrist was grabbed. I turned around, and Robert said in a low voice, "Are you unhappy?" I looked up and down at him and the girl beside him. "I'm not unhappy. I wish you two a long and happy relationship." After I finished speaking, he still didn't let go of my wrist. The girl rolled her eyes. "Who are you? You're interrupting our shopping." She waved the expensive bracelet on her hand and then looked at Robert coquettishly. "Are you jealous that no one will buy you such a bracelet?" I said calmly. "Do you know that he has a fiancé?" She was taken aback for a moment and then snorted. "It's just a family arranged marriage. How much affection can there be? If Robert really liked her, would he still be with me?" Robert sneered. Then he drooped his eyelids, and his black eyes stared straight at me. My expression didn't change, and I nodded. Then I glanced at his well-defined hand that was still on my wrist. "Let go." Robert didn't move and looked at me sideways. "Find another male companion for the banquet the day after tomorrow." The girl was shocked for a moment when she heard him say that. Then she sized me up. "After a while," she said with a smile. "Oh, you're his fiancé. So what? Robert is going to accompany me the day after tomorrow." I calculated that the engagement cancellation agreement should reach Robert's house tomorrow. "Sure," I said. "Can you let go now?" Robert paused, and his face darkened. "Who are you going to find?" "Several young men with good family backgrounds. Good looks and nice figures flashed through my mind. I said sincerely, "I haven't decided yet, but I'm sure I can find someone suitable after going home and having a look." The air was so silent that it made people's hearts palpitate, except for the various glances that came and went on the commercial street. The bullet comments popped up again. OMG. The male lead is so angry. Male lead. Can't you just look at me with teary eyes and act submissive? Do you have to make me angry? Female lead. Act coquettishly. Cry. Don't waste your beauty and the male lead's love for you. Seriously. Female lead. Don't be so stubborn. No one knows what the male lead will do when he goes crazy. He'll bankrupt the female lead's family and then lock her up. And she'll be obedient then. Jade. You're really something. Robert gritted his teeth, and his voice dropped to the freezing point. He let go of my hand. I took a step forward. I looked at the necklace around the girl's neck and then stared deeply at Robert. You said before that you would give me this necklace. After that, I turned around and left. Robert chased after me, and his tone was unreadable. You still remember that, but I don't need it now. She can act coquettishly with me, and she circles around me every day. She even calls me husband, Robert said in a low voice. So that's why he gave the necklace that he promised to give me to her. I felt a sudden urge to vomit in my throat and stomach. The bullet comments boiled over with this sentence. He's hinting at you. The male lead can't hold it in anymore. He. If the female lead calls him husband, he'll even give his life to her. The male lead dreams of the female lead calling him husband, and when he wakes up, he has to change the bed sheets. I stopped and looked into Robert's eyes, enunciating each word clearly. Yes, in the future, I'll act coquettishly with other men and call other men husband, and they will also fulfill my requests. Say that again. Robert's voice was colder than ever before. His big hand grabbed my shoulder bone, and the force was so strong that it seemed as if he was going to crush me. Just then, the girl who had followed us spoke timidly. Robert, what's wrong? Robert didn't even look at her and still stared at me. She pouted and glared at me. Did you make Robert angry? Robert is never unhappy when he's with me. I felt even more disgusted. I turned my head away and didn't want to say anything more. After a long while, Robert's hand dropped. He closed his eyes in frustration, and a gloomy atmosphere surrounded him. She knows not to make me angry. Jade. He left this sentence coldly and turned around to leave. The girl immediately followed him and coaxed him in a sweet voice. Their backs looked like a perfect couple. The bullet comments kept popping up. The female lead just doesn't want to be submissive and push the person who loves her away with her own hands. Just say a few nice words to the male lead. Won't that do? Why do you have to let that bitch take advantage of the situation? I'm speechless. Look at the trending searches. Some passerby posted the photos and videos they took online. After I got into the driver's car, I turned on my phone. By then, several friends had already sent me messages. OMG. Why are you on the trending search? Do you know that the woman beside your fiancé is an internet celebrity? How are you doing? Honey, someone just sent me the photos. Why does Robert have the nerve to show off his mistress in front of you? What a scumbag. The internet celebrity beside your fiancé keeps saying during her live streams that there's a man who loves her very much and buys everything for her. So it's Robert. I'm speechless. There wasn't even a female mosquito around Robert before. We even said he was clean and self-disciplined. Why is he suddenly keeping a small internet celebrity? I carefully chose my words and replied to them one by one. Then I clicked on the trending search. The clear photos and videos clearly captured the tussling between Robert and me. The comments below were all on the side of that internet celebrity. I think this woman just can't stand it when Madge is doing well. She even tries to seduce Madge's boyfriend. Didn't you see how Madge's boyfriend treated her? He was so fierce. On the contrary, he has always doted on Madge. This woman is still lingering around them. She kept staring at them after they left. Is she pretending to be affectionate? I'm really speechless. Ugh. That green tea bitch should stay away and stop seducing other people's boyfriends. It turned out that my fiancé had already become someone else's boyfriend. I shrank back in the back seat and stared blankly into space. This trending search could stay until now, and it even had a tendency to get more and more intense. It must have been agreed by Robert. Did he really like me as those bullet comments said? Was his so-called love to tolerate people on the internet distorting the truth and scolding me endlessly? I closed my eyes in pain. After a long while, I dialed the phone and said in a hoarse voice, "Ask someone to remove the trending search. And do it quickly." The bullet comments became active again at this time. I feel sorry for the female lead. I can't stand it anymore. If the female lead had just been submissive and acted coquettishly, it wouldn't have ended up like this. Those dumb netizens just follow the crowd. Madge is the mistress. I'm so angry. The male lead is indeed a bit too much. But the female lead is too independent. He still wants to see the female lead relying on him and being unable to do without him. I don't think it's easy to remove this trending search. Some people are already digging into the female lead's background. If the people in my company see this, it will definitely affect the stock market. My gaze stayed on the last bullet comment for a long time. Sure enough, not long after, the phone rang. The person on the other end said helplessly, "Someone has been buying the trending search. We're trying to remove it, but the positive and negative effects cancel each other out, and the result is minimal." I didn't say anything. The person on the other end sighed. "Did you offend someone? This trending search keeps popping up and just won't go down. This is a big deal. Doesn't your fiancé want to remove it either? Is he just going to watch? Because the person who bought the trending search was my fiancé. But soon he won't be anymore." My father's call came through next. His voice was full of anger. "Jade, what's going on? If it weren't for someone asking me, I wouldn't even know." I took a deep breath. Robert cheated. Is that my fault? There are plenty of men who cheat. But how could you let this kind of thing get out? And you let that woman be safe and swagger in front of you. My father's voice suddenly rose. I patiently explained. Robert bought this trending search, and he's the one who kept the mistress. Dad, this has nothing to do with me. I'm already asking someone to remove the trending search. My father sneered. If you can't keep a man's heart, it's your fault. After saying this, he hung up the phone. The car just stopped. The driver turned around and reminded me, "Miss Jade, we're at the villa." I pushed open the car door like a walking corpse and walked step by step towards the dark villa. What my father said was really high-sounding. Back then, he cheated and had a bunch of mistresses outside. In the end, he blamed my mother for being old and having no charm. He forgot who used all her dowry to support his business startup and who had been making sacrifices behind the scenes. At night, I called Robert, and he answered almost instantly. "What's up?" His tone was lazy. "Stop buying the trending search," I said softly. He paused for a moment, and his tone rose. "Why do you sound so listless? Are you very sad? What on earth do you want?" I couldn't control myself, and my voice was filled with despair. He didn't say anything. I said hoarsely, "Are you happy to see my identity being exposed? Being called a mistress, and my family's stock price dropping? Are you satisfied?" As I said these words, I couldn't help but tremble all over. How could there be such an unreasonable madman? After a long while, Robert said leisurely, "Don't cry, baby. Do you want to see me? I can come to you now." I opened my mouth, but I couldn't make a sound. I stood on the balcony. The cool night wind blew past, and it also cooled the tears that had just fallen. I was like a complete joke. In the end, Only two difficult and dry words remained. No. Robert repeated it with an unreadable emotion. No. What do you mean, Jade? His voice turned cold. I don't want to see you. I mustered up my last bit of strength and hung up the phone. I lay back on the bed in a daze and couldn't fall asleep for a long time. The trending search was still at the top. The relatives in the family chat group all marking me, and their tones were full of complaints, until a cousin sent a message. I think, cousin, since you can't keep Robert, you should just give up. Don't you know how much impact this has caused? Once the topic was started, the peers in the group joined in. The cousin sent an emoji of covering his face and laughing. It's so embarrassing. You've been stepped on by the mistress. If I were you, cousin, I wouldn't have the face to go out. Robert spends all his money on that internet celebrity. Has he never spent any money on you? Cousin, why don't we just change the person in the engagement? Anyway, Robert doesn't like you. Cousin. After the last sentence was sent, the chattering group fell silent instantly. I smiled bitterly. I actually wish we could just change the person. But my family's company is still under my father's control. And I'm his only daughter. He won't be willing to let go of this opportunity to curry favor with Robert's family. I set the group messages to do not disturb and started browsing my moments. The first post was a group photo sent by a young master, standing in the center. It was Robert and Madge. Robert affectionately put his arm around Madge's waist and lazily raised his eyebrows at the camera. The group of Robert's brothers on the other side were happily raising their glasses. What did it look like? Right. It was like an official announcement photo. I gave it a like and turned off my phone. At this moment, the bullet comments flooded in like a tide. Don't be sad. Female lead. This is all an act by the male lead. We all know that the male lead loves you the most. That's right. After his brother posted this moments, he checks every minute to see if you've liked it. He really wants to see you. You rejected him last night, and he's almost dying of sadness. Female lead. Call him quickly and tell him you're jealous. He'll come to you immediately. Hee hee. I closed my eyes numbly. I pushed all these bullet comments out of my mind. I don't know how long it had passed, but I propped up my cold body and sent a message to the lawyer. Send me the engagement cancellation agreement first. I'll find an opportunity to give it to Robert later. I needed a day to handle the property transfer without being noticed or disturbed by anyone. After attending the banquet, I took a plane in the early morning and flew to another country. By then, the engagement cancellation agreement would be in duplicate and sent to my father and Robert respectively. Staying in the country, even if I refused to marry Robert at all costs, I wouldn't have a peaceful life. Sooner or later, my father would marry me off to someone else. Everything went smoothly. I also carefully selected a mermaid dress. When I walked in the banquet hall wearing high heels, I raised a smile. My friends came up one after another to ask me how I had been recently. One of them even nudged me with her elbow and said, "You don't have a male companion, right? I can lend you my younger brother." I thought for a moment. Forget it. I don't think there's anything embarrassing about being alone. That's true. Having a man around would just get in the way of our chat, she said with a smile. Suddenly, there was a commotion not far away. We looked in the direction of the sound source. Robert was wearing a silver gray suit, looking lazy. There was a faint smile on his lips. His arm was being held by Madge, who also curved her eyes charmingly. Ah, I thought that when Robert said he would accompany Madge, he meant going shopping with her or something. It turned out that he was accompanying her to this banquet. My gaze fell on Madge's dress. It was the same mermaid dress as mine. When I ordered it, I was told that there was only one such dress in the country. The dress on Madge. Was it shipped overnight from abroad? Robert deliberately wanted to embarrass me. Sure enough, as soon as Madge saw me, her expression immediately changed. She bit her lip and turned to say something to Robert. And then Robert looked over unhurriedly. Madge walked over on her high heels, glaring at me with her almond-shaped eyes. Did you send someone to find out what dress Robert ordered for me? And then you deliberately copied it. Hearing this commotion, other scattered people at the banquet gradually gathered around. My friend was shocked. Don't talk nonsense. Madge snorted. You're just jealous that Robert treats me well. Your tricks are really disgusting. And you don't even look as good as me in this dress. My friend said silently. She looks better than you. Madge was furious. She went back to Robert and shook his arm. Robert, look at them. Robert's eyes were pitch black, and his gaze lingered on me for a long time. After a while, he curled his lips into a smile. The bullet comments suddenly became noisy. Ah, the male lead smiled. He thinks the female lead looks better in this dress. But later, the male lead will do something to stimulate the female lead, making the female lead go to him pitifully and obediently. Later, he will still. While I was still wondering what the last bullet comment meant, the microphone suddenly rang. Everyone looked over. The senior secretary of Robert's group held a microphone and a card and said, "Thank you all for coming to this banquet. I have an important matter to announce. According to the resolution of Mr. Robert and the board of directors, 2% of the shares of Robert's group will be given to Miss Madge free of charge." The whole audience was in an uproar. I suddenly raised my eyes in disbelief. Robert had a certain amount of shares, but I didn't know exactly how much. But the other 2% was for his future wife, even if it was only 2%. In the huge Robert family, the annual net income was also a very considerable amount. He gave it to Madge, and he had someone announce it at this moment. The bullet comments were frantically scrolling. Here it comes. The move of the crazy male lead. The poor female lead is being laughed at by everyone and can only go and beg the male lead obediently. That's right. Then the female lead will stay by the male lead's side helplessly and be endlessly exploited. It's so exciting. What is the female lead still insisting on? The male lead loves you so much. Hurry up and slap Madge. And then hold the male lead's arm and act cute. Under the sarcastic and curious gazes of everyone, I walked step by step towards Robert. His gaze followed me closely. I stood in front of him. He lowered his eyes, and the corners of his lips lifted slightly. I also curved my lips, and the words rolled out from my throat one by one. The engagement cancellation agreement is already on its way and will reach you soon. Whether you want to continue the cooperation with my family or not, you can decide for yourselves. I'm not going to accompany you anymore. I looked at Robert, and after saying the last sentence expressionlessly, I turned around and left. Robert suddenly grabbed my wrist, and his fingertips trembled slightly due to the excessive force. What do you mean, Jade? What do you mean? I didn't look back. Breaking off the engagement. Can't you understand? I don't agree, he growled, his voice tense. Are you blaming me for giving the shares to someone else? I frowned. I have no relationship with you. What does the transfer of Robert family's shares have to do with me? It's not like that. I turned around impatiently. His eyes were already filled with a stormy darkness. As long as you want, everything can be yours. There's no need to break off the engagement. Robert's gaze locked onto me tightly, and his voice was hoarse. I didn't want to talk to him anymore. Let go. I won't let you go. He increased the strength, almost stubbornly. I let out a muffled groan of pain. At this moment, my friend stepped in front of me. She gritted her teeth and said, "Robert, you kept a mistress outside, and now you don't allow Jade to break off the engagement. Is that reasonable?" Madge shrieked. "Who are you calling a mistress?" Robert loves me the most. My friend sneered. Then why doesn't he let go of Jade and marry you instead? Madge was stunned for a moment and looked at Robert with a sob. Robert, what are you doing? You don't like her anyway. Isn't it just right to break off the engagement? Robert didn't look at anyone else from beginning to end. The corners of his eyes were slightly red. Jade, stop making trouble. The shares and the necklace are all yours. Why do you think I would care about them? I retorted. I shook off his hand fiercely. If I continued to entangle with him, it would only delay my itinerary. I said calmly, I wish you two happiness, a long and lasting relationship, and to have a baby soon. Robert moved his lips. I took a step back. Don't stop me. Don't make me look down on you. When I walked towards the door of the banquet hall, the bullet comments in front of me kept refreshing. Ah, what's going on? Isn't it going to be the big ending? Aren't the female lead and the male lead going to live happily together? The male lead went too far. It seems that the female lead is really jealous. The female lead just broke off the engagement like this. Who knows what the crazy male lead will do? Maybe he'll tie the female lead up tomorrow. What? There's also a kidnapping plot. I'm waiting to see. Of course. I was afraid that Robert would go crazy. So, I had to seize the opportunity. In a few hours, I would cross half of the earth and go to another country. When the plane took off successfully, I let out a long sigh of relief. I bought the ticket in a hurry, and only the economy class was available. But I wasn't picky about that. I pulled down the brim of my hat. The tense mood that I had been holding all night was finally released, and my eyelids started to droop. Just then, I smelled a familiar scent, a very expensive customized perfume. It only ever appeared on Robert. My heart almost stopped, and I slowly turned my head. I met those dark eyes. There was a mole at the corner of his eye. His thin lips parted slightly. Where are you going? Robert's dark eyes looked deeply into my eyes and brows, and I was enveloped in his shadow. I closed my eyes. Tears welled up from the corners of my eyes. One by one, the air was silent. Why are you crying? He hesitated for a moment, and his fingertips wiped away the tears at the corner of my eye. After a long while, his expression was complex and hard to understand, and his voice was low. I won't let Madge appear in front of you again. He pulled me into his arms. The familiar scent rushed towards me. I cried silently. Robert tightened his arms, and I was trapped in his embrace. His chin rested on my neck. Don't say anything about breaking off the engagement again, baby. The bullet comments. Actually, the male lead is extremely happy inside. Finally. He saw the female lead being jealous and crying sadly. The friend who gave the male lead the idea should be highly rewarded. Now the female lead can only be anxious and insecure in front of the male lead every day and be an obedient and delicate wife. Madge, doesn't the male lead love me the most? Male lead, thank you for letting me see my wife being jealous of me. It's so satisfying. Reward everyone. I said softly. Why did you come with me? I have someone I like abroad. Robert's body stiffened. Then he casually tucked the disheveled strands of my hair behind my ear. Are you lying to make me jealous? His tone was certain. Not everyone is like you. I thought calmly in my heart. I pushed him away. When we get there, I'll introduce you to him. Robert gritted his molars. Seeing that I had no expression, he laughed out of anger. I don't like it when you tell such lies. He pinched my chin, pretending to have someone you like and deliberately making me angry. Jade, you'll never have anyone else you like in your life. I forcefully turned my head away and looked out of the airplane window at the dark sky. Below was the city with flashing neon lights. Robert snorted and said indifferently, I'll take you to the nearby island for a trip. Just like a honeymoon. Then we'll go back and get the marriage certificate. The male lead seems indifferent on the surface, but he can't wait to get the marriage certificate in his heart. When the male lead heard the female lead say she had someone she liked, his heart almost stopped. Fortunately, he quickly realized that the female lead couldn't possibly have someone else she liked. Female lead: don't say such things anymore. The male lead can't stand it when you say you like someone else. So, if I do less than 1/10 of what he has done to me, is it my fault? After getting off the plane, I was searching for the hotel I had booked. Robert crossed his arms. Where's the person you like? I paused. He raised his eyebrows knowingly and let out a muffled laugh. Okay. Don't make such jokes next time. He obviously already believed that I said that just to make him jealous and angry, until I saw a head of bright blonde hair. I said, "Here he comes." Sister. The young man took a few steps and ran over. As soon as he saw me, he hugged my waist and twirled me around in the air. Robert's face instantly darkened, filled with hostility. Who are you? Put her down. I held the young man's arm and sneered. Didn't I tell you? The young man's bright amber eyes flickered between me and Robert. Just when I thought it was going to be exposed, the young man held my hand and bared his teeth at Robert with a smile. Who are you? Why are you disturbing me and my sister? As soon as he finished speaking, a fierce gust of boxing wind came towards us. I unhesitatingly stepped in front of the young man. The fist stopped just 1 centimeter away from my cheek. Robert's breathing was rapid and heavy, and his face was pale. Jade, I'm your fiancé, I said lightly. Didn't your butler tell you that you received the engagement cancellation agreement? I didn't agree to it. Robert gritted his teeth. I don't need your agreement, I said wearily. I held the young man's hand in return and smiled gently. Let's go to the hotel I booked. A shadow fell over Robert's face, and a mocking smile appeared on his lips. Jade, aren't you afraid that if you go too far, I won't want you anymore? I looked at him quietly. Then I took my gaze back. It was someone else who had gone too far. You'd better never come and beg me. His hoarse voice carried a hint of sickness and viciousness as he turned around resolutely. No. Don't go. It's over. The male lead is going to mess with my family and make the female lead go back and beg him for the sake of my family. The female lead really went too far this time. Why did she have to use another man to make the male lead jealous? Sigh. My heart ached dully. Why were even the bullet comments siding with Robert? Why did the two of them receive completely different evaluations and impacts for the same thing? I masked the pain in my eyes. Just then, my hand touched something fluffy. I was startled and looked up. The young man placed my hand on his slightly curly blonde hair, and he smiled brightly. I saw that you liked a lot of golden retrievers on Instagram. How about treating me like a golden retriever and petting me? I withdrew my hand as if I had been electrocuted. No need. Thank you just now. I'll give you more money. He readily agreed. Okay. Thank you. Sister. It wasn't until I sat in the passenger seat that I belatedly took a look at the young man who was driving seriously. Under the blonde hair, his skin was still fair. He had a straight nose, deep contours, and the corners of his eyes were slightly upturned. He seemed to be smiling all the time. He just looked very young. How old are you? I asked. 19. He turned the steering wheel. I'm an adult. You know. What's your name? You can call me Elvis. I nodded and didn't say anything more. He was quiet throughout the journey. He didn't ask any more about Robert. When we arrived at the hotel, he took out a small notebook. Our travel plan for the next few days is in this notebook. Do you want to see? I interrupted him. Do you need money? He was taken aback for a moment. Yeah. I'm working part-time to support my studies. Why? Sister. Looking into his bright amber eyes. I almost blurted out that I would support him, but in the end, I swallowed the words back. I couldn't be like Robert. Saying it out like that would be too insulting. I shook my head silently. Just as I was about to say that I would give him more money, I noticed the watch on his wrist. I quickly averted my gaze. We arrived at the hotel soon. When I woke up from a nap, my phone was constantly ringing. Half of the calls were from my father. Without even thinking, I knew that Robert had taken action. But what did it have to do with me? I had already converted all my property into cash and transferred it. Even if my father went bankrupt, it had nothing to do with me. The other half of the calls were from Robert. His messages were also constantly flooding in. What are you doing? Why aren't you answering the phone? Are you with him? Jade. It was your father who saved my mother back then. I agreed to marry you as a return for his favor. But now, what about you? You're flirting with someone else. Come back now, and I can pretend that nothing happened. I moved my fingers and blocked and deleted him. I flipped through other chats and finally found a piece of peace amidst the chaos. Good morning, sister. I'm here to pick you up. Remember to put on sunscreen today. The sun is really strong. I replied with, received, and boredly clicked into his moments and scrolled down, until I scrolled to an invitation letter with the caption, "Let's go." I sat up straight. I looked at the invitation letter for a long time and laughed out loud. This was an invitation to an internal gathering of the Robert family. No wonder. According to Robert's character, he wouldn't have let me go with the young man last night at all. He would have directly kidnapped me back to the country. And now, he wouldn't just send some threatening messages on WeChat without taking any actual action. No wonder Elvis said he was working part-time to support his studies, but was wearing a Vacheron Constantine watch on his wrist. So it turned out, Robert had personally sent his cousin, whom I had never met, to me. Was it to keep an eye on me? Just as I was thinking, the bullet comments lit up. So this strange man is the cousin. Damn. He didn't appear in the original plot. The male lead is really torn right now. He wants his cousin to keep an eye on the female lead. But he's also afraid that the female lead will really get together with his cousin. The male lead was really angry last night. Haha. Even though he knew it was his cousin, he was still really mad. He loses his temper whenever there's a man around the female lead. It's okay. The female lead will soon be back in the male lead's arms. The cousin will drug the soy milk he brings to the female lead later, and the male lead will appear out of nowhere to save the female lead. Then the female lead will fall head over heels in love with him. Me. There was a knock on the door. I went to open the door, and Elvis appeared in front of me with a smile. Good morning, sister. He shook the bag in his hand. I was afraid you wouldn't be used to the local breakfast, so I brought you Chinese breakfast. I took the bag and smiled. Thank you. I stepped aside to let him in and sit down. I gave Elvis's phone number to my friend back in the country and introduced him as a very handsome guy. Less than a minute later, Elvis's phone rang. He answered the phone in a daze, facing the fierce bombardment from the other end of the phone. He responded hesitantly. I quickly made a cup of instant coffee, added the soy milk to the coffee, and handed it to Elvis. This is coffee I brought back from the country. Want to try it? He instinctively took it and frowned slightly after taking a sip. But the person on the other end of the phone was still constantly trying to find topics. Elvis drank the coffee up in annoyance. I counted down in my heart. 10, 9, 8, 2, 1. The handsome blonde guy, who had just found an opportunity to hang up the phone, fell straight to the ground. When the person on the bed woke up, his eyes widened instantly. His hands and feet were tied to the four corners of the bed. You're awake. I glanced at him. His face turned slightly pale. and he stared at me. After a while, he smiled. How did you know? Because the bullet comments finally worked for once. I lifted his chin with my index finger. You're really good looking. Elvis let me look at him obediently. How do I compare to my brother? I didn't answer. My gaze slid down from his collarbone, and my fingertips landed on his well-defined abs. Further down was his mermaid line. Sister, if you want to tie me up, that's fine. But why are you taking off my clothes? He pouted. I didn't answer directly but just commented, You're not as thin as you look. Of course, now that his cover was blown, he no longer had the youthful excitement from last night. There was only the arrogance of a wealthy young man. I took off his pants too. Him. I took a few photos with my phone. Me? You don't want other people to see these photos, do you? His expression froze for a moment, and then he chuckled. Then they'll be able to see my manliness. Although I'm a bit embarrassed. It doesn't matter. I took out the fruit knife I had just bought. His expression suddenly changed, and he said obediently and pitifully, I'm sorry, sister. Spare my life. Why did Robert send you here? I demanded. He let out an ah sound to make sure there are no men around you, and then pretend to be a robber and rob you, and then wait for him to play the hero and save the beauty. I said slowly, There's really no decent person in your Robert family. Just then, the door was kicked open. Robert strode in, but his face changed instantly when he saw the situation in the room. You too. I turned my head and smiled at Robert. Your brother has a good figure. I like it. What did you say? Robert grabbed my wrist and pulled me up, locking his gaze on Elvis fiercely. Did you seduce her? Elvis smiled helplessly. If you want to think so, that's okay. Robert punched him. Damn. You hit so hard. Elvis cursed. Since he was tied up, he could only take one punch after another. Finally, Elvis was on the verge of death and completely dispirited. I'm going to complain. Tell my uncle. After Robert finished hitting him, he called his assistant and asked the assistant to call an ambulance. I watched coldly. After everything was cleaned up, it was just Robert and me in the room again. I finally looked at him directly. I don't know if you don't understand human language. I'm not playing hard to get, and I don't want you to be jealous. When I said I had someone I liked, I just wanted you to give up. I don't like you anymore, and I don't want to be pestered by you. Do you understand? He was stunned. I pointed to the place where Elvis had just been lying, and the anger and disappointment that I had held in for a long time burst out. You asked him to drug me so that you could play the hero and save the beauty. Robert, don't you think you're despicable? I feel disgusted for having ever liked you. My voice was so loud that I started to gag physiologically towards the end. He wanted to come and support me, but I took a few steps back. I don't like you anymore. I looked at him mockingly. Stop deceiving yourself. As for feelings, all I have for you now is hatred and disgust. Are you serious? Robert's eyelashes trembled. I'm sorry. I didn't know you were so disgusted by this. I won't do it again in the future. I laughed out of anger. Did he think I just hated him for sending Elvis to deceive me and drug me? I threw the photos that Madge had sent me in the morning onto his face. Robert, there won't be a future for us. He stood there, picked up one of the photos, and said in a hoarse voice, This was just an act. I just wanted to make you jealous. There was a look of horror in Robert's eyes. I'll make Madge pay the price. I sneered. What you do has nothing to do with me. Stop bothering me. He wanted to explain something, but his chest felt as if it was being pressed down hard by a huge stone. Do you like Elvis now? He asked in a low voice. Neither of you are worthy of my liking, I said sharply. Stop torturing me. Every second you get close to me, I feel like vomiting. He still wanted to get close to me. Without hesitation, I smashed the cup, picked up the shards, and pointed them at him. He walked forward, letting the shards pierce his skin, and blood flowed. His fingertips still reached out to touch my cheek. How can I make you forgive me? He said softly. Disappear completely and stop disturbing me. I turned my head away. He fell silent. The smell of blood spread in the room. I watched the blood flowing onto the floor. If you die here, I'll have to clean up your body. It's too much trouble, I said flatly. I was wrong. I just wanted you to care about me so much. Robert lowered his eyes. His thin lips were pale. No one ever taught me how to love someone. I didn't want to argue with him. He pursed his lips. I'll compensate you as much as I can. After saying that, he turned around dejectedly. His back was thin and lonely. I called out, Robert. He turned around hopefully. Clean up the blood you spilled. We can't trouble the hotel staff because of your fault. Right. The light in his eyes flickered. Finally, it dimmed. He took a few pieces of paper from the table, dipped them in water, and squatted down to wipe the floor. I glanced at him, went to the other table, turned on the computer, and started working. Close the door when you leave. Robert softly replied with an, okay. Only when I heard the sound of the door closing did I look up. The room was empty and tidy, and the floor was clean and smooth. I gave Robert the engagement cancellation agreement. He sent me an equity transfer agreement in return. Along with it, there was also a necklace. Each diamond inlaid on it sparkled with a brilliant light. It was a bit too dazzling for my eyes. I checked several recent auction houses. The price was 10 more than the necklace I had wanted before. I flipped through the equity transfer agreement. Robert had sent all of his shares as the head of the Robert family, leaving nothing for himself. I took Robert out of the blacklist and dialed his number. Have you ever thought that after I accept the transfer and sell a large number of shares, the stock price, control, and capital chain of your Robert family will all be in trouble? Jade, he said in a low voice, if you want to keep them, all the money you earn belongs to you. If you don't want to and you sell them to vent your anger, that's also an option. He seemed to smile on the other end of the phone. It's all up to you. If I were your parents or relatives, I would have killed you directly. I sneered. He paused. After a long while, he just said, I'm sorry, Jade. I didn't say anything. He was silent for a while and then continued. You once said you liked shiny diamonds, so I found the most expensive ones that could be bought on the market. I wanted to give you that necklace back then, but you always had so many things that seemed more important than me to be busy with. In order to make you notice me and be jealous, I gave it to someone else. I really regret it. After recording the conversation, I said unhurriedly, the shares are very valuable. I can accept them, and I won't sell them unless there's a major event. The necklace is very beautiful, and I can accept that too. But you, Robert, I don't want you. Are you sure you still want to give these to me? Are they voluntary gifts? This is my compensation to you. Robert's voice was sour. You think I don't love you enough, but I really love you. I just used the wrong way before. I shrugged. Since you're giving them voluntarily, there's no reason for me not to accept them. This can also be considered my mental damage compensation. Thank you. I said the last two words sincerely. Then I hung up the phone. With a beep, my thoughts started to wander. Once upon a time, Robert and I had a very good relationship. When I was in junior high school, My father happened to be negotiating a cooperation with the Robert family. Then, he was kidnapped. He risked half his life to save Robert's mother. Robert's mother was crying with tears all over her face and asked him what he wanted. He said weakly, "I have a daughter at home. I'm afraid I won't be able to take care of her in the future." My father was shrewd all his life. If this favor was repaid with money, it would be over once the money was paid back. But if the only son of the Robert family married his daughter, then there would be no need to worry about wealth and glory for the rest of his life. He only said half of what he meant, but Robert's mother understood. Overwhelmed by emotions, she readily agreed. "Okay, let Linger marry your daughter. You're a kind person, so your daughter must be very kind too." But actually, Robert and I had known each other before that. He sat behind me in class and poked me with a pen cap every now and then. When I got annoyed and turned around to glare at him, he would smile and say, "Are you hungry? I'll go buy you something to eat. Don't you study?" I left this sentence and turned back. Robert didn't mind. He sent me food day after day, even the snacks that other girls put in his drawer. He gave them all to me. I said coldly, "I don't want things that others don't want." He was taken aback. "Then in the future, I'll only give you the things I buy." As he said that, he was about to take away and throw away the snacks from others. "Since you don't want them, couldn't you just refuse when they were given to you? It's a waste of other people's money," I said. He looked aggrieved, but I didn't want them, and they insisted on giving them to me, just like I insist on giving you things even though you don't want them. I was silent for a moment, ignored him, and continued doing my homework. Later, I couldn't participate in the long-distance running event at the sports meeting. Everyone said, "You're the monitor, and you should set an example. Just keep running and you'll persevere." It was Robert who slapped the table and stood up. "She just won't run." "So what? Are you?" That hadn't appeared for a long time also showed up. Compared to before, they were obviously much slower this time. I could even feel the hesitation of the bullet comments. "This plot doesn't seem right, does it? What's wrong with it?" There were so many people siding with Robert before that I didn't dare to say anything. I'm speechless. Where does Robert deserve the female lead? Yes. Although the male lead didn't sleep with Madge and didn't even like her at all. And he only got close to her to make the female lead jealous. But the male lead really spent a lot of money on Madge. I still feel uncomfortable about it. But to put it in another way, the male lead spent the money to make the female lead jealous. So, in a way, it's as if he spent the money on the female lead. Right. Are you okay? The one upstairs. Is your brain still normal? Stop arguing. Isn't this ending quite good now? Sigh. Actually, I really hope that all male and female leads can live happily together. But in this situation, it's also good for the female lead to be independent and beautiful. Yeah. Why did I have to be tied to Robert? Couldn't I live without him? Just then, the bullet comments in front of me gradually became transparent and disappeared. I opened my eyes wide. I saw the last bullet comment before it completely disappeared. Everyone's thoughts are different, and it can't be forced. But I always hope that every female lead can find her true soul instead of becoming an appendage. Maybe this is the meaning of the bullet comments being seen. I fixed my gaze on this comment for a long time. Finally, I lowered my head and curved my lips. My dream has always been related to finance. But my father would just snort coldly. "You'll be a full-time housewife after you get married. Learning flower arrangement is better than learning this." Later, we had a huge fight over the college major application. He pointed at the door. Furious. "If you dare to study that stupid finance, I'll pretend I don't have a daughter like you." I immediately ran to the kitchen, grabbed a kitchen knife, and put it against my neck. "Fine. Just consider me dead as your daughter." We confronted each other for a long time. He finally gave in. His face was pale, I won't care about you anymore. But you must be a good wife. So now, a few days ago, in order to make me yield and beg for mercy, Robert had already taken action against my family. Now he asked me cautiously, "Do you need me too?" I said directly, "No need. I want to live a different life from before. So the people who hinder my development had better not appear in my life anymore." The consequence of my ruthlessness was that I was constantly by my relatives in the family group every day. My cousin, quickly ask your husband to stop. Is he crazy? He's been targeting our family. What's the benefit for you if our family collapses? Without your family of origin, how can you stand your ground in the Robert family? My cousin, Sister Jade, we know you and your husband have made up. Please stop targeting us. Okay, I replied indifferently. Even if he hadn't taken action, I would have brought down our family sooner or later. After sending this message, I left the family group that had brought me countless shadows. I have a problem recently. It's already annoying enough that Robert harasses me unilaterally every day. Elvis also came back to the country. I don't know how he got my contact information, and he sends me messages every now and then. Then somehow Robert found out, and the two of them fought again. I don't want to pay attention to either of them, but as soon as I block one number, other numbers pop up. I almost called the police. However, the frequency of the harassment isn't too high, and the things they occasionally send are quite to my liking. It's better to accept them than not to. Until one day in the parking lot, just as I pressed the car lock, a sharp dagger stabbed towards me. But the expected pain didn't come. I was pushed to the ground by someone who rushed over from the other side. The damp smell of the parking lot mixed with the smell of rust, and I frowned in disgust. I saw clearly the person holding the dagger. My father had a ferocious expression. "I raised you in vain. You ungrateful wretch. I'll kill you. Ungrateful wretch." Robert covered his bleeding abdomen with one hand and pushed my father away fiercely with the other hand. Soon, bodyguards came and quickly held my father. I looked at him coldly. "It's my misfortune to have a father like you." He was taken away in a state of collapse and fury, struggling wildly with his limbs, but to no avail. "Spend the rest of your life in prison." I smiled. Out of humanitarianism, I took Robert to the hospital. On the way, he held my hand tightly, and sweat broke out on his forehead from the pain. I looked at him and asked, "Did you promise him a sum of money so that you could play the hero and save the beauty?" Robert was incredulous, and his fingertips trembled helplessly. "You? Is this how you think of me? It's not like you haven't done such a thing before." I retracted my gaze indifferently. There seemed to be a sob in his voice. I interrupted him. "Anyway, I'm quite satisfied with the result that he's in prison." He leaned weakly on my shoulder. "How could I play a trick with my own life? I'll give you a sum of medical expenses. I'll leave as soon as we get to the hospital." All the strength seemed to be drained from Robert's body, and tears flowed uncontrollably. He murmured softly, "I'm sorry, Jade. I'm really sorry." I didn't respond. He smiled bitterly. "I brought all this on myself." After leaving the hospital, the sun was shining brightly outside. I squinted my eyes and raised my hand to block the sun. My assistant called me. "Miss Jade, there are several batches of documents that need your attention." This attracted many people to gather around and take photos. I asked the driver to pick me up. While waiting for the car, a girl passed by me. She was arguing on the phone. "I heard you discussing with my mom about tampering with my college application. Can you respect me for once? Cut off my living expenses. You've only ever used this to threaten me since I was a child. Don't I have the right to have my own dreams?" As she argued, she burst into tears. I patted her on the shoulder. "If you're determined about your dream, then go for it. I can help you." She looked at me in surprise. Just then, Robert chased out from the hospital. I said expressionlessly, "Aren't you afraid that your wound will burst open?" He shook his head, his voice hoarse. "I'm afraid that if I'm not careful, you'll be stolen away by someone else." I rolled my eyes. The girl followed me closely. Pretty sister, can you really help me? I have good grades and will definitely not let you down. I smiled. Sure. She also smiled. While I asked Robert to buy water, the girl asked curiously, "Is he your boyfriend? He's so good looking." I touched her head. No. After a pause, I added, "As long as you don't lose your way. You can have many such men in the future."